Hello friends! Today we are going to be tier ranking my entire armory, which if you're new here, oh boy are you in for a treat. I have spent like the last 2 years of my life creating different weird prosthetics for myself because I find it really entertaining. And it's a lot of fun and other people like to see it too. Today we're going to tier rank the arms that I've made so far. We're going to maybe talk about some of the arms that I'm going to be making in the future. Perhaps. Here's the ranking system. Godtier, and the reason why it's godtier is because I misspelled tier. Below godtier, absolutely unhinged, but in a good way. Unhinged can be good and bad. I am a big fan of chaos, okay? So unhinged, not necessarily a bad thing. I definitely have some that I know will fit into this category well. Okay, crowd pleaser is like things that my audience has enjoyed thoroughly. And maybe it's not my favorite thing, maybe it's not the arm that I'm the most proud of or the most excited about, but people like it in general. So, crowd pleaser. Below that is hands potential, because I'm a fan of a good pun. So that's any arm that I've made where I think the concept is really strong or could be really good, but maybe my execution wasn't quite there. I've got a lot of weird ideas, and sometimes they come out good, sometimes they come out bad. That's okay. Absolutely unhinged in a bad way. This is chaotic evil, and not in a fun way, like we don't like this. It's not entirely regrettable. Maybe there are some redeeming qualities about it, but we could have done better. So in the I regret this category, it will be things that there's not enough redeeming qualities about it for it to justify its existence. We don't need this to be a thing, and we can move on from it. Okay, here we go. First up, Finn the human from Adventure Time. I did a cosplay, and we have Finn's flower arm. I put a little daisy on the end of my arm with a little piece of tape. Low effort, high reward. Big fan. Let's think. People really liked this. I also really liked this. I wouldn't say it's absolutely unhinged, and I don't know that it's god tier. I'm gonna say Finn's daisy arm was a crowd pleaser. Everybody's happy with it. It's not anything super, groundbreaking, though. Up next, this is a really fun one, okay? So I have been working, and listen, I have depression and chronic illness and some other stuff. So doing things, making art can be very exhausting for me. But a project that I have been working on, and will continue to work on, is making Ash Williams' chainsaw arm, specifically from Army of Darkness. It's got good bones, but it's a work in progress. This is tough, because it's not finished yet. I know that it's going to be a crowd pleaser when it's done. But I think right now, because it's not quite finished, we're going to put it in hands potential. Next up, we have Almighty Worm Arm. And Worm Arm goes straight to god tier. If you don't know, if you're not familiar with the lore of Worm Arm is a god. I've got videos on my TikTok that you might be interested in. Currently sits on a shelf in the highest part of my house so that he can look over everything that goes on and observe and judge. Easy god tier. So up next we have, so this is the arm that I originally referred to as being automail, although it is not, and I will show you why it's not in a moment. So I went ahead and just scratched that in there one day, and people thought it was hilarious and really enjoyed it. And I do as well. It still exists on this arm cover, although the outside I think is painted now. Okay, this could go in crowd pleaser, because people did enjoy it. But I think I'm actually going to put it in hands potential, because I did improve upon this. We're gonna put that right there. So that brings me to the next arm, which is my Edward Elric Full Metal Alchemist cosplay that I made from scratch out of foam and some metallic acrylic paint. Listen, I'm working on a budget. I don't have a lot of money. A lot of people are like, why don't you use metal and all this other stuff and 3D printing? And I'm like, I don't care. I like doing things the way that I do them. Anyway, I made my automail. I'm very proud of it. I think it looks pretty freaking cool. People really liked it. Really liked it. So I'm gonna say that this is god tier. It's not unhinged. I think that it's a pretty good... The show is arguably a little unhinged. The story is a little bit unhinged, but that's not on me. Edward Elric's going in god tier. All right, next up, this is very exciting. So I have a bionic arm already. It's called the Hero Arm. It's very cool. I have some other videos on it here on this channel and on my TikTok. So go check that out if you're curious to learn more about the specifics of the Hero Arm. However, I have this other prosthetic that I'm currently being fitted for by another company, and it's going to be metallic silver, and there are some other cool parts about it. I don't know a whole lot about it yet in terms of how it's going to work for me, what I'm going to be able to use it for, or really what it's going to look like in person. But I did get some images of like a sample of what it will look like, and I think it's going to be really cool. It's metallic silver, and it's going to be a mirror image of this hand. I'll be getting that in the future. You'll be able to see more of this arm. But I think that I'm going to put this in... I think this is going to go in hands potential. Simply because I don't know for sure yet how good it's going to be. I know it's going to be good, but I don't know if it's going to be god tier good or like crowd pleaser good. We'll have to see and reevaluate once I actually have it. For now, it's going to go in hands potential. Okay, next up we have just the bare bones, essentially, of my Hero Arm in its purest form. My Hero Arm, which is amazing, fantastic, gorgeous. In this picture here, I have a couple of white, like solid white arm covers on it, which in combination with this black and white dress, I think is just, it's so good. So good. But it's not necessarily exciting. I wouldn't say it's unhinged. I wouldn't say I regret it. And I wouldn't say it hands potential because, like, I think that this in and of itself is a very good look. So I think we're going to put it in crowd pleaser. Next up, one of my favorites. This arm, which I have referred to as Spike, has been repurposed at this point. So Spike no longer exists in this form, which does bring me great sadness, and I do need to remake Spike. But I only have so many arm covers. I only have 2 sets of arm covers at this point, and they've already been used for a lot of different things. To be honest, I think people find Spike very cool and like a little bit shocking. And the way that I crafted this arm with real, like, this kind of like cone spikes on it, it can be weaponized. And so for that, I'm going to say it's absolutely unhinged in a good way. Next, we have my eyeball arm, and just quick warning for anybody with trypophobia. You're not going to like this one. Skip like 15 seconds. You won't have to look that closely at it. This arm took me, so it's like a plastic mannequin arm that I individually hot glued eyeballs onto. And I did it that way rather than just use the adhesive so that I could still go and use the googly eyes over time for different projects. Because I'm a big fan of repurposing, reusing things. So anyway, it took me like 6 hours to freaking construct this arm. But it's super cool. I love it. When I shake it, it rattles. Hang on. Isn't that fun? Eyeball arm. I don't know that it's quite god tier. I do love it. I do love it. Maybe it is god tier. I'm going to say eyeball arm is absolutely unhinged in a good way. And the reason I'm going to put it there rather than god tier is because it would be better if I could actually wear it as a prosthetic. In its current state right now, I can't do that because it's solid on the bottom. But if I find a way to cut that open and be able to stick it on my arm and actually wear it, then I think it'll move up to god tier. But for now, we're going to put it in absolutely unhinged in a good way. Okay, so next is my Hero Arm, just in its natural state. However, when I first got my prosthetic, one of the first things that happened is there was a glitch that caused it to only close but leave the middle finger up. And so anytime I closed the hand, I would be flipping everybody off. And honestly, like, did it make the hand super functional? No, it made it basically useless for a little while. But was it still amazing and everything I could ever want? Yes, absolutely. So I'm gonna say it's absolutely unhinged because it's just absurd. My prosthetic did nothing but flip people off for 2 weeks until I got it fixed. And then it happened again. We won't go into that right now. But is it absolutely unhinged in a good way or in a bad way? That's debatable. I think it's hilarious. So I am leaning towards saying absolutely unhinged in a good way. but it did make the arm basically non-functional, and so for that reason, I'm gonna put it in absolutely unhinged in a bad way. It was funny while it lasted, though. Next up is Tooth Hand. Now, listen, there is some backstory to Tooth Hand, okay? My husband and I met on TikTok, and when we met, one of the first things that he did was slide into my DMs. He knew that I was into crafts, and he said, hey, I'll buy you some human teeth if you want. And I was like, you're gonna, what? That sounds weird and probably illegal. He's like, no, like replica, like they make little resin ones and stuff. You can buy them, they're fake ones online to use for crafts. And I was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Weirdest pickup line I've ever experienced in my life, but it ended up working out. We're married, so, you know. So I had a whole bunch of these replica teeth. I used them to make a couple of different projects, but one of those projects was Tooth Hand, and I'm gonna be honest, I still have Tooth Hand. It weirds me out. It sends shivers down my spine. I cannot touch it because it really creeps me out. It sits on my shelf. I think it's a fantastic art piece. But I'm gonna say, ooh, do I wanna? I think I'm gonna put it in I regret this. Now, the reason for that is not that it isn't what it is, but I think we've moved on from that. I think it was funny for a minute. I think I enjoyed making it, but I think now, looking back, I probably could have used those teeth for a number of other projects and gotten a lot more out of it, rather than sticking them all on this one hand cover. So now I don't have use of the hand cover or the teeth, and it's just a hideous monstrosity that lives on my shelf in my house. A waste of materials. You know, it's sort of a nice, like, memory of, like, oh, when my husband and I first met. It's such a weird thing. Anyway, next up we have Baby Arm. Now, Baby Arm is covered in those little plastic tiny babies that you can buy in bulk online. I like the idea of Baby Arm. I think it's whimsical. I like that I had green babies and like pink babies. I still have the sleeve part of Baby Arm intact, but I actually repurposed the hand cover part of Baby Arm at this point for something else. Actually, for the Edward Elric cosplay, that got repurposed into that hand. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. It was one of the first hands that I made. I wouldn't say I regret this. I feel like it's absolutely unhinged in a bad way, is where we're gonna put it. I don't regret making it, but I think we've moved on from it. We've evolved. We're in different territory now, doing more exciting things than just gluing plastic babies onto our arm. Okay, this one should be really truly in its own category. Bread arm. Quite literally, I got a loaf of bread from the store, like French bread. Cut the end off, scooped a little bit of the bread out, and stuck my arm in there, and that's what bread arm is. It is just a loaf of bread. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't regret a single thing about it. It was... And funny thing about bread arm is I posted a video of me dancing around with it on my arm to a Papa Roach song, and I posted it on TikTok, and Papa Roach saw it and replied to it, so bread arm's gonna go in God tier. Okay, up next is Chia arm. If you know me, if you've been following me just recently or for a while, you've probably seen Chia arm. Chia arm has put me through the paces, okay? I cannot get this freaking thing to grow for the life of me. We're trying again. I have different things, different tactics that I'm gonna use. We're gonna get this thing to work one way or another. But Chia arm has died on me twice now. But people have been very excited about it. And so I think it's absolutely unhinged in a good way. Even though I'm tempted to put it in hands potential, I'm gonna cheat a little bit and say that it's unhinged in a good way because I know that I'm going to get it to work. It's just gonna take time. And when I do, it's gonna be fantastic. It's gonna be amazing. I'm so excited for it. Up next, we have hand. Now, hand is actually eyeball hand before I put eyeballs on it, with the addition of those little hand puppets that are individual hands. Just for the sake of, like, the name, just to say hand, and for someone to be like, what is that? And for me to be able to hold up a hand with several other hands on it, that's amusing to me. I like that. But is it groundbreaking? Is it iconic? Is it godtier. I'm gonna say it's none of those things. I think hands potential. I think that I could take it a step further and have each of the individual hands on the hand also have hands. I don't know how I would do it, but if I could do it, it would be amazing and hilarious. We'll revisit this at a later date. Okay, up next is actually another version of hand, but this one is funnier to me. Now I made this. This is a screenshot from a TikTok that I made like well over a year ago now. That Alanis Morissette song where she says, I got one hand in my pocket and another one's giving you a high five. I'm gonna say this one was underrated. I'm gonna say it's absolutely unhinged in a good way and I don't regret it. Is it groundbreaking? I don't think so. Maybe. I don't know. But I stand by it. I stand by this hand. Next is a beautiful hand-painted arm that my husband made for me. It has Audrey too, and I love it. I think it's amazing. I think it's underrated. I'm gonna say this is crowd pleaser, and the reason I'm putting it there instead of in godtier is simply because it's only one side of the arm right now. I need the other side to also be painted, and then I think we can move it up. Next, and we're getting very close to the end here, is another Finn the Human situation. I made his grass sword and his grass arm. It was not the best execution of this, I'm not gonna lie. I did make the grass sword from scratch, from some cardboard and some paint, and I think it turned out pretty cute. But I just wrapped a ribbon around my existing arm because I didn't really know what else to do to represent that. I think now once I have the Chia arm finished, that will actually be an excellent way to portray this. And I've done a couple of variations of sword arms in the past, all executed at about this level, if not lower. Mostly just me sticking swords in my sleeve and kind of, you know, parading around that way. So I'm gonna say this hand's potential, because I think I can improve upon this by finishing and seeing out the Chia arm. Okay, and then lastly, I like to occasionally stick googly eyes on my arm, and the last time I did this, I stick googly eyes on it and eyelashes. And I put lipstick. That liquid lipstick was stuck on my arm for like 3 days afterwards in the shape of a little mouth, and so it was very disturbing. I think this one was honestly underappreciated. It's not godtier. I can accept that. Is it absolutely unhinged in a good way? I don't know. Is it a crowd pleaser? Not really. People didn't really seem to like it that much. Does it have potential for more? I don't know. Absolutely unhinged in a bad way. It's definitely unhinged. But is it good or bad? I'm gonna put it in absolutely unhinged in a bad way. And the reason for that is my execution could be better. I don't know that it's worth redoing, but I think stickling, yep, I stand by that, stickling. Googly eyes on anything is hilarious. So you know what? I'm gonna move this up to hands potential. Googly eyes are objectively funny and fun, and I think if I added a wig, this would have been probably just as bad, but I would have enjoyed it more, and that's really all that matters here. So, real quick, an honorable mention. I didn't have a picture of this, but this is my guitar prosthetic. It's pretty cool. I don't play guitar now. I haven't played guitar in a number of years, and I'm not sure that I even could at this point, but it's a pretty nifty little dude. It's just kind of, it looks like sort of like a bird from the side, which I love. It unscrews and moves all around so you can really get in there. And before anyone says anything, yes, I know that the pick is technically backwards. I do that because I don't have the kind of wrist flexibility, obviously, because this is metal and hard plastic and doesn't move like a wrist at all. And so I find that having the rounder edge actually would slide off of the strings much better than the pointy edge, which would just get caught in the strings. If I were to rank this, it's not only useful, but it's also kind of adorable. However, the skin tone, boring. I'm gonna say if I were to rank this, it would go into crowd pleaser. Because it's actually useful, it's cool as it is. It could be better if it had some sort of wild print on it. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me on this little journey. I will happily continue to rank my arms as I make more. And I will be making many more arms in the near future. So if that's something that you want to see, if you want to see me do more weird things, more cosplays, more art, an add to my armory. Stick around, hang out, subscribe here, go find me on TikTok, go find me on Instagram. I'm at fullmetalharmony everywhere. Thanks, friends.